Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Kepler Prime looked like a giant metal wheel spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Thousands of lights dotted its surface where ships from across the galaxy came to dock. Today would be another day of lies and pretending to be weak. "Admiral, we're getting a message from Station Control," said Captain Lisa Hamilton from her position at the communications desk. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. "They want us to dock at Bay 77. Morrison nodded. Bay 77 was in the worst section of the station, where they put ships that nobody cared about. Perfect. The aliens still thought humans were nothing more than a small, struggling species that barely knew how to fly between stars. "Take us in, Captain," Morrison said. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. Those lines came from 30 years of keeping the biggest secret in human history. "Make sure we look as pathetic as always." Liberty was designed to look old and weak. Her hull had fake rust marks and dents. Her engines made too much noise and left a trail of exhaust that any decent ship would never produce. Inside, she had some of the most advanced technology in the known galaxy, but nobody could tell by looking at her. As they docked, Morrison thought about the real human fleet. Right now, thousands of ships waited in hidden bases scattered across the outer edge of human space. Ships like the UES Defiance, with weapons that could destroy entire alien fleets. Ships like the UES Vengeance with shields so strong that nothing the aliens had could break them. All waiting for the right moment. "Sir, Ambassador Nicole Peters is here," Hamilton said. Peters walked onto the bridge carrying a briefcase full of fake reports. She was a woman in her 40s, with blonde hair and blue eyes that could make her look helpless when she needed to. In reality, she was one of the smartest people Morrison had ever met. "How do I look?" Peters asked with a small smile. "Desperate enough?" "Perfect," Morrison replied. "Remember, we're barely managing to keep 3 ships running. Our people are struggling to grow enough food. We need their help with everything." Peters laughed quietly. The truth was that human farms now produced more food than Earth had ever seen. Human factories built new ships faster than any alien species could manage. Human scientists had solved problems that the aliens thought were impossible. But the aliens didn't need to know that. They walked through the station's corridors toward the council chambers. The walls were covered with symbols from dozens of different alien species. Most humans who came here felt small and unimportant. Morrison felt proud. His people had fooled them all. The council chamber was a huge round room with seats arranged in circles. The most important species sat in the center. The Valtharians looked like tall humans, but with blue skin and 4 arms. They thought they were the smartest beings in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had gray skin and large heads filled with brains that could solve complex math problems in seconds. They believed technology was everything. The Corvins were big and strong with thick armor-like skin. They respected only military power. "The human delegation may now present their requests," announced Councillor Vexfer of the Valtharians. His voice sounded bored, like he was talking to children. Peters stood up slowly, making herself look nervous. "Honored council members, humanity comes before you once again seeking assistance. Our small fleet of 3 ships is struggling to maintain basic operations. We've had engine failures on 2 vessels this month alone." Several aliens made sounds that Morrison knew were laughter. General Zekamoth of the Corvins shook his massive head. 3 ships? My people build 3 ships every day. You understand? "Our limitations," Peters continued, her voice getting smaller. "We're asking for access to better trade routes so we can afford basic repairs. Perhaps some technical assistance with our failing life support systems." Chancellor Morden of the Zephyrians waved one of his long, thin hands. "Humans, your species has been members of this council for 10 years. In that time, you have contributed nothing of value. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your ships are barely capable of leaving your own star system." Morrison watched Peters lower her head as if she was ashamed. Inside, he was smiling. Every word of this conversation was being transmitted back to Earth, using communication technology so advanced that the aliens couldn't even detect it. "We know we're not as advanced as your great civilizations," Peters said. "But we're trying to learn. Surely there's some way we can be useful to the Council." Dixper made a gesture with two of his hands that meant dismissal. Perhaps you could carry messages between star systems for us. Your slow ships might be suitable for simple transport duties. The other council members made more laughing sounds. They thought humans were so weak and stupid that they could only be used as delivery workers. Back on Earth, Admiral Chris Baker sat in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dozens of screens showed him everything happening in the galaxy. Staff monitored alien fleet movements, tracked their communications, and prepared for the day when humanity would reveal its true power. "Sir, Operation Prometheus is on schedule," reported Colonel Steve Turner. He was a thin man with quick eyes who ran Earth's intelligence network. "All our hidden bases are ready. The fleet can be mobilized in 6 hours." Baker nodded. Operation Prometheus was named after the ancient story of a being who stole fire from the gods. Humans had stolen something much more valuable from the aliens. They had stolen the element of surprise. The meeting on Kepler Prime continued for another hour. The aliens gave humanity permission to use old, dangerous trade routes that nobody else wanted. They offered to sell Earth some outdated equipment at high prices. They treated humans like beggars, asking for scraps. Morrison and Peters played their parts perfectly. They thanked the council members for their generous help. They promised to work hard to become worthy of alien friendship. They asked for patience as humanity slowly tried to catch up to the advanced galactic civilizations. When the meeting ended, Morrison and Peters walked back to their ship in silence. Only when they were safely aboard the Liberty did Peters finally speak. "How much longer do we have to keep doing this?" she asked. Morrison looked out at the alien ships docked around them, proud vessels from species that thought they ruled the galaxy. Soon, they would learn how wrong they were. "Not much longer," he said quietly. "The Zephyrians are moving toward the outer veil. The Corvins are getting ready for war. The Valtharians think they can control everyone. When they start fighting each other, that's when we make our move." The Liberty undocked from Kepler Prime and began its slow journey back toward Earth. To anyone watching, it looked like another pathetic human ship limping home after begging for help. In reality, it was returning to coordinate the greatest military surprise in galactic history as the stars streaked past the view screen. Morrison thought about his grandson who would grow up in a very different galaxy. A galaxy where humans didn't have to pretend to be weak. A galaxy where Earth's children could reach for any star they wanted. The deception was almost over. Soon, the secret human fleet would shock the Galactic Council and change everything forever. 6 months had passed since the meeting on Kepler Prime. The galaxy was buzzing with news that made everyone nervous. Deep space scanners had found something incredible in the outer veil, a region of space far from any civilized world. The discovery was bigger than anyone had imagined. Commander Ryan Brooks stood in the observation deck of Shadow Base Alpha, one of humanity's most secret installations. Through the thick glass, he could see dozens of human warships being built. In the asteroid field, massive construction robots moved like metal spiders, welding armor plating onto ships that would make the aliens tremble with fear. "Sir, we're getting reports from our spy network," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez as she approached with a datapad. It was a small woman with dark hair who could sneak into any alien facility without being detected. "The Zephyrians found something big in the outer veil." Brooks took the pad and read the information. His eyes grew wide. The Zephyrians had discovered deposits of rare minerals worth more than the entire economy of most star systems. Elements that could power faster-than-light drives for 1,000 years. Crystals that could make energy weapons 10 times more powerful. "This is going to start a war," Brooks said quietly. He was right. Within days, the news spread across the galaxy. The Corvin Republic immediately claimed the Outer Veil as their territory by right of conquest. General Zekmoth appeared on galactic news channels, his massive form filling the screen as he declared that the strongest species deserved the greatest prizes. The Valtharian Empire responded just as quickly. Counselor Lexuver announced that ancient Valtharian star maps showed their ancestors had explored the Outer Veil first. Therefore, the resources belonged to them by historical right. Chancellor Morden of the Zephyrians laughed at both claims. His people had found the resources, so they belonged to the Zephyrian collective. He said that primitive species like the Corvons and Valtharians wouldn't even know how to use such advanced materials properly. On Earth, President Helen Ross sat in the secure briefing room deep beneath the White House. The room was filled with military leaders and intelligence officers who had been planning for this moment for years. "Gentlemen, ladies," she said, looking around the table, "this is what we've been waiting for. The three major powers are about to tear each other apart over resources they'll never get to use." Admiral Chris Baker leaned forward. "Our intelligence shows all three species are moving their fleets toward the outer veil. The Corvins are bringing their entire war machine. The Valtharians are activating ships they haven't used in decades. Zephyrians are loading their most advanced weapons." Colonel Steve Turner activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked the positions of alien fleets as they moved toward the disputed region. Each species thinks they can win quickly. They're all wrong. This is going to be a bloodbath that could last for years. President Ross nodded grimly. That's when we step in. When they're all weak and exhausted from fighting each other, humanity reveals its true strength. "Admiral Morrison, are your ships ready?" Morrison appeared on the screen from the bridge of the UES Liberty. "All fleet units are standing by, Madam President. We have 200 warships hidden in the outer systems. Each one is more advanced than anything the aliens have ever built. The plan was simple but brilliant. Humanity would let the alien powers destroy each other fighting over the outer veil resources. When the survivors were weak and desperate, the secret human fleet would appear and offer to mediate the conflict. But this time, the mediation would come with overwhelming force behind it. Lieutenant Rodriguez had been busy for weeks, using advanced cloaking technology that made her invisible to alien sensors. She had infiltrated the command ships of all three fleets. She planted tiny listening devices that would let humanity hear every battle plan and strategy session. "The Corvins are planning a direct assault," she reported to Brooks. "They think they can smash through both enemy fleets with pure firepower. The Valtharians want to use their defensive formations to let the others weaken each other first. The Zephyrians believe their energy weapons can destroy anything." Brooks smiled. All three species were about to learn that their weapons and tactics were useless against human technology. The secret human fleet had been designed after studying alien combat methods for decades. Every weakness had been identified and exploited. The war began exactly as expected. The Corvin Republic's massive battle fleet jumped into the outer veil first, claiming the resource-rich systems by force. Their ships were huge and heavily armored, designed to ram through enemy lines while firing every weapon they had. The Valtharian Empire's fleet arrived next, forming defensive circles around the most valuable planets. Their strategy was to let the Corvins and Zephyrians fight while they held the strongest positions. When the Zephyrian collective ships appeared, the real battle started. Their energy weapons lit up space like a new star being born. Beams of pure power cut through armor that was supposed to be indestructible. Shields that had never failed before collapsed under the assault. The Corvins responded with their own devastating attack. Massive kinetic weapons hurled chunks of metal at nearly the speed of light, explosions that could be seen from neighboring star systems marked where enemy ships died. The Valtharians tried to stay out of the worst fighting, but both sides attacked them anyway. Soon, all three fleets were locked in a battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. Back on Earth, the human leadership watched the destruction with mixed feelings. They were glad their plan was working, but seeing so many lives lost was hard to accept. "Casualty reports are coming in," Turner said quietly. "Hundreds of ships destroyed, millions of aliens dead or dying, entire planets are being evacuated." President Ross closed her eyes for a moment. "This is why we had to stay hidden. If we had revealed our strength earlier, they would have united against us. Now they're too busy fighting each other to notice what we're really doing." Admiral Morrison's voice came through the communicator. "Madam President, my ships are in position. The U.S. Defiance, U.S. Vengeance, and the rest of the fleet are ready to move. We can end this war whenever you give the order." "Not yet," Ross replied. "Let them exhaust themselves a little more. When they're desperate enough to listen, that's when we make our entrance." The battle in the outer veil continued for days. Each species threw everything they had into the fight. Ancient weapons that hadn't been used in centuries were brought out of storage. Experimental technologies were tested in the heat of combat. The three greatest powers in the galaxy were destroying each other exactly as humanity had hoped. But soon, something would happen that none of them expected. A secret human fleet would appear, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Colonel Turner looked at the casualty reports one more time. "I hope we're doing the right thing." Admiral Baker put a hand on his shoulder. "We are. When this is over, there will be peace in the galaxy. Real peace. Not the kind that comes from fear and intimidation. Humanity will make sure of that." The trap was set. The aliens were walking into it with their eyes wide open. Soon, the galaxy would learn that the species they had ignored and dismissed was actually the most powerful force in known space. The secret human fleet was ready to shock the Galactic Council and change the course of history forever. The war in the Outer Veil had been raging for 2 weeks. Space itself seemed to burn as the three greatest powers in the galaxy tore each other apart. Massive explosions lit up entire solar systems. The wreckage of destroyed ships formed clouds of twisted metal that stretched for millions of miles. General Zakmuth of the Corvan Republic stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher. Half of his face was covered in bandages from a recent battle injury. Around him, his officers worked frantically at damaged control panels. They had lost 60 ships in the last 3 days alone. "Status report," Zekmoth growled through his pain. "Sir, we have 37 vessels still combat ready," replied his aide, a young Corvan whose armor was cracked and scorched. "The Valtharians have formed a defensive line around the main resource deposits. The Zephyrians are using hit-and-run tactics to avoid direct confrontation." Zekmoth slammed his massive fist on the command table. "Cowards, all of them. If they want a real fight, I'll give them one they'll never forget." On the other side of the battlefield, Counselor Thexver watched his own forces take heavy damage. The Valtharian Empire's elegant ships were designed for defense, but they were being overwhelmed by attacks from 2 directions. His beautiful vessels, works of art as much as weapons of war, were being reduced to burning scrap metal. The Lord said his tactical officer, "We've lost contact with the 3rd Defense Fleet. The Zephyrian energy weapons are cutting through our shields like they weren't even there." Vixfort closed his 4 eyes in despair. His people had ruled the galaxy through diplomacy and intelligence for centuries. Now they were being outgunned by species they had always considered inferior. Chancellor Morden of the Zephyrian Collective was having his own problems. His advanced ships could destroy any enemy vessel in single combat, but there were simply too many enemies. For every Corvan ship his people destroyed, 2 more took its place. For every Valtharian vessel they eliminated, another moved in to fill the gap. "Chancellor," his science officer reported, "our energy reserves are down to 40%. If this battle continues much longer, we won't have power for our main weapons." Morden's large brain calculated the odds quickly. They were not good. Continue the attack. "We must secure those resources, or our civilization will fall behind the others permanently." What none of them knew was that human observers were watching. Every moment of the battle, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat in a cloaked reconnaissance ship just outside the combat zone, recording everything for Earth's military leaders. Her ship was so advanced that it could sit invisible just a few thousand miles from the fighting aliens. "Command, this is Rodriguez," she spoke into her communicator. "All 3 fleets are badly damaged. I estimate they've lost about half their effective combat strength. They're running low on ammunition and energy. This is the perfect time to make our move." Back on Earth, President Helen Ross stood in the war room surrounded by her top advisors. The holographic display showed the real-time battle in the Outer Veil. She could see the alien fleets destroying each other exactly as humanity had planned. "Admiral Morrison," she said into the communicator, "you are authorized to begin operation." Prometheus. "Show them what humanity is really capable of." Admiral Jake Morrison smiled as he stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty. But this time, he wasn't pretending to command a weak and broken ship. Around him, his bridge crew worked at control panels that hummed with power beyond anything the aliens had ever imagined. All units. This is Morrison. He broadcast to the human fleet. Operation Prometheus is now active. Remember, we're not here to destroy them. We're here to save them from themselves and show them a better way. In space stations hidden throughout the outer rim of human territory, massive doors opened for the first time. Ships that had been built in secret for decades emerged into the light of distant stars. The U's Defiance, with armor that could withstand anything the aliens could throw at it. The UES Vengeance, carrying weapons that made Zephyrian energy beams look like flashlights. The UES Freedom, equipped with shields that could protect entire planets. Captain Lisa. Hamilton stood beside Morrison as 200 human warships formed up in perfect formation. Each vessel was larger and more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They moved with precision that made the alien fleets look clumsy and disorganized. "Sir, all ships report ready," Hamilton said. Her voice was calm, but Morrison could see the excitement in her eyes. They had waited so long for this moment. "Take us in," Morrison ordered. "Let's go shock some aliens." The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, moving faster than any alien ship could match. In the outer veil, the three alien powers were still fighting. Desperately, when space itself seemed to tear open. A fleet that none of them had ever seen before dropped out of hyperspace directly between their battle lines. For a moment, the fighting stopped completely. Alien commanders stared at their screens in confusion and disbelief. The new ships were clearly marked with the symbols of Earth, but that was impossible. Everyone knew humans only had 3 old broken vessels. General Zekmoth was the first. To recover from his shock, what are those ships? Where did they come from? On his screen, Admiral Morrison's face appeared. The human looked calm and confident, nothing like the desperate representatives who had begged for help at council meetings. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet." His voice carried clearly to all 3 alien commanders. "You will cease hostilities immediately and prepare to receive humanitarian aid." Chancellor Morden's voice crackled over the communication system. "Impossible. Humans don't have a fleet. You have 3 ships that barely work." Morrison smiled, and it wasn't a friendly expression. "We've been letting you believe that for 40 years. It was easier than having to fight all of you at once." To prove his point, Morrison gave a simple order. Defiance. Disable the Corvin flagship's weapons. Vengeance. Take out the Valtharian command ship's engines. Freedom. Shut down the Zephyrian energy grid. What happened next would be talked about in history books for centuries. The human ships moved faster than alien eyes could follow. Beams of energy that made no sound but struck with perfect accuracy reached out and touched the 3 most powerful vessels in the alien fleets. In seconds, it was over. The Bone Crusher's massive guns went silent, their power systems completely dead. The Valtharian command ship drifted helplessly as its engines shut down. The Zephyrian flagship's advanced energy weapons flickered and died. "How?" whispered Counselor Thexfer, his forehands shaking as he stared at his dead control panels. "We've been watching you, learning from you, and improving on everything you taught us," Morrison explained, "while you thought we were struggling too. Fix 3 old ships. We were building the most advanced fleet in galactic history." Commander Ryan Brooks, now aboard the UES Defiance, opened communication channels to all the damaged alien vessels. "This is Commander Brooks of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're sending medical and repair teams to assist your wounded and damaged ships. Please do not resist our aid." The aliens watched in amazement as human ships approached their crippled vessels. Instead of finishing them off as any other species would have done, the humans sent doctors and engineers to help repair the damage. General Patricia Wells led the first boarding party onto a damaged Corvan vessel. Her Marines carried medical supplies instead of weapons. They found alien warriors who had been ready to die for their cause, now staring in confusion at humans who wanted to save their lives. "Why are you helping us?" asked a wounded Corvan officer as a human medic treated his injuries. Wells looked down at the alien warrior with something like pity. "Because that's what civilized species do. They help each other instead of destroying each other." Across the galaxy, news of humanity's secret fleet spread faster than light itself. On homeworlds that had never taken Earth seriously, populations gathered around communication screens to watch impossible footage of human ships, disabling alien fleets with ease. The species that had laughed at human weakness now faced a terrifying new reality. The primitive humans they had dismissed and ignored were actually the most powerful force in known space, and they had been hiding that power for decades in the Outer Veil. Admiral Morrison broadcast a message that would change the galaxy forever. The old order is dead, his voice carried to every ship in every world. Humanity offers a new way forward. A galaxy where strength is used to protect, not to conquer, where the strong help the weak instead of exploiting them. Choice is yours. But the age of human leadership has begun. The secret was out. The galaxy would never be the same again. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Within hours of the battle in the Outer Veil, every civilized world knew the truth about humanity. The species that everyone had dismissed as weak and primitive had just revealed the most powerful military force in galactic history. On the Veltharian homeworld of Veltar, millions of blue-skinned citizens gathered in the great plazas to watch the news broadcasts. They saw their mighty warships being disabled by human weapons they couldn't even understand. The proud Veltharian Empire, which had dominated galactic politics for centuries, had been made to look like children playing with toys. How could our leaders not know? Demanded one citizen, his forearms waving in anger. How could we be so blind? Elder Morthex, one of the oldest Veltharians alive, watched the footage with sad eyes. We became so proud of our own intelligence that we forgot to actually use it. We saw what we wanted to see, not what was really there. The reaction on the Corvin homeworld of Cormania was even more intense. The warrior species had built their entire culture around being the strongest fighters in the galaxy. Now, they discovered that humans had been stronger than them for decades without anyone knowing. General Thokvar, Zekamoth, second in command, smashed his fist through a metal wall in frustration. 40 years we could have been destroyed at any moment, and we never knew. Young Corvin warriors, who had dreamed of glorious battles, now faced a crushing reality. Their weapons were toys compared to human technology. Their tactics were simple compared to human strategy. Everything they believed about strength and power had been proven wrong, but the worst reaction came from the Zephyrian collective. Their entire civilization was based on the belief that they were the most advanced species in the galaxy. They had looked down on every other race as primitive and backward. Now they learned that humans had technology so advanced that Zephyrian scientists couldn't even begin to understand it. Chancellor Morden sat in his private chamber, staring at reports from his best engineers. They had examined the energy signatures from the human weapons and found them completely impossible according to Zephyrian science. Sir, his chief scientist said quietly, we've been studying the readings from their ships. They seem to have mastered gravity manipulation, faster than light communication, and energy-to-matter conversion. Technologies we thought were centuries away from being possible. Morden's large brain, which had always been his greatest pride, felt small and useless. How long have they been ahead of us? Based on these readings, at least 50 years, maybe more. The Chancellor made a sound that was almost like crying. His people had spent centuries believing they were the smartest beings in the universe. Now they discovered they were like insects compared to humans. Dr. Kevin Wright, humanity's chief technology officer, stood in a laboratory aboard the UES Defiance. Round him, alien scientists from all three species worked alongside human researchers. The aliens stared in wonder at devices that seemed like magic to them. This gravity manipulator, said a Zephyrian scientist, his voice filled with awe. It's smaller than our most basic tools, but it can move objects weighing thousands of tons. Wright nodded patiently. We've had this technology for 20 years. We use it in our construction sites to build ships faster. Veltharian engineer held up a human communication device. This can send messages instantly across the galaxy. Our fastest ships take weeks to carry information that far. Every human ship has had that capability for a decade, Wright explained. It's how we coordinated our secret construction projects. The aliens looked at each other with expressions of defeat and amazement. Technologies they had thought impossible were basic tools to humans. They were beginning to understand just how far behind they really were. On Kepler Prime, space station where the Galactic Council had met for centuries, emergency sessions were being held around the clock. The Great Chamber, where alien leaders had once made decisions for the entire galaxy, was now filled with chaos and confusion. Species that had been allies for generations were now blaming each other for the deception. The three major powers accused each other of being too arrogant to see the truth about humans. Smaller species demanded to know why their leaders had been so easily fooled. "This is a disaster," declared Ambassador Velkoth of the Antarian Federation. "If humans could hide their true strength from us, what else don't we know? What other species might be more powerful than they appear?" Fear was spreading throughout the galaxy. If humans had been able to fool everyone for 40 years, how many other secrets were there? How many other species were hiding their true capabilities? Meanwhile, on Earth, the human leadership was dealing with their own challenges. President Helen Ross sat in the Oval Office with her top advisors, discussing how to manage a galaxy that no longer trusted anyone. "Madam President," said Secretary of Defense William Carter, "we're getting reports from across human space. Hidden colonies are finally able to reveal themselves. We have settlements on over 200 worlds that the aliens never knew about." Admiral Chris Baker appeared on the video screen from the Pentagon. "The alien fleets are in complete disarray. Some species are calling for immediate surrender. Others want to unite against us. Most are just confused and scared." Ross nodded thoughtfully. "Fear makes people do stupid things. We need to show them that we're not their enemy. We're their protector." Ambassador Nicole Peters, who had spent years pretending to be desperate for alien help, now found herself in a very different position. She stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, but this time she wasn't begging for assistance. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice clear and confident, "humanity offers you a choice. You can continue the old ways of competition and conflict, or you can join us in building something better." A counselor Thexfer, his pride broken, but his intelligence intact, asked the question everyone was thinking. "What do you want from us?" Peters smiled. "We want peace, real peace, not the kind that comes from fear. We want cooperation instead of competition. We want to explore the galaxy together instead of fighting over pieces of it. And if we refuse," asked a representative from the Draxan Empire. The smile left Peter's face. "Then you'll face the same choice our ancestors faced when they first reached for the stars: grow and adapt, or be left behind." The message was clear. Humanity was offering partnership, but they were also making it clear that they would lead the galaxy whether the other species cooperated or not. Back in the outer Veil, human ships worked alongside alien vessels to repair the damage from the war. Human engineers taught alien crews how to fix their ships. Human doctors treated alien wounded. Human diplomats helped settle disputes between species that had been fighting for weeks. Commander Ryan Brooks watched the cooperation with satisfaction. "You know what the best part is?" he said to his aide. "We're starting to realize that working together gets better results than fighting each other." The aide nodded. "It's like they're learning what humanity figured out centuries ago. That the strongest species isn't the one that can destroy its enemies. It's the one that can turn its enemies into friends." The galaxy was changing. The old order based on fear and competition was crumbling. In its place, humanity was building something new. Something based on cooperation and mutual benefit. But change was never easy. Not everyone was ready to accept the new reality. Some species would fight against human leadership. Others would try to find ways to challenge human technology. The transition would be difficult and dangerous. However, humanity had spent 40 years preparing for this moment. They were ready for whatever came next. 3 months had passed since the day humanity shocked the galaxy. The old Galactic Council was gone, replaced by the Terran Federation Council. The Great Chamber on Kepler Prime looked the same, but everything else had changed. Were alien leaders once made decisions that affected billions of lives? Admiral Jake Morrison now sat as the first Supreme Commander of the galaxy. Morrison looked older than his years. The weight of leading an entire galaxy was heavy on his shoulders. He had never wanted to rule anyone, but someone had to bring order to the chaos that followed humanity's revelation. "Supreme Commander," said Captain Lisa Hamilton, as she approached his desk with the daily reports. She now served as Director of Interspecies Relations, trying to build bridges between species that had fought each other for centuries. "We have updates from all sectors." Morrison nodded and took the reports. The Corvin Republic had been divided into 3 smaller territories, each governed by human military advisors. The proud warrior species was slowly learning that true strength came from protecting others, not conquering them. Colonel Steve Turner, now promoted to general, oversaw the integration of former alien military units into the Federation fleet. Many Corvin warriors had chosen to serve under human command rather than face the shame of their defeat. They were surprised to find that humans treated them with respect and gave them meaningful work to do. "How are our Corvin recruits doing?" Morrison asked. Hamilton smiled. "Better than expected." "General Turner says they're natural soldiers once they understand they're fighting to protect people instead of conquer them. They've volunteered for the most dangerous missions to prove their loyalty. The Valtharian Empire had handled the transition better than most. Their intelligence and diplomatic skills made them valuable partners in the new galactic government." Counselor Vexver had become Morrison's chief advisor on alien affairs, helping to smooth relations between species that still didn't trust each other. "The Valtharians have proposed a new trade agreement," Hamilton continued. "They want to share their manufacturing techniques in exchange for access to human agricultural technology." Morrison approved the proposal with a simple signature. Under human leadership, trade was becoming cooperation instead of competition. Species were sharing their best knowledge. Instead of hoarding it for advantage, the Zephyrian collective had been the hardest to integrate. Their pride in their intelligence had been completely shattered when they realized how far behind human science they really were. Many Zephyrians had retreated to their homeworld and refused to participate in the new galactic order. "Any word from Chancellor Morden?" Morrison asked. Hamilton's expression grew sad. "He's still in isolation. Dr. Wright says the Zephyrians are having trouble accepting that their technology is obsolete. Some of their scientists are working with us, but most are too proud to admit they need our help." Morrison felt sympathy for the Zephyrians. It was hard to discover that everything you believed about yourself was wrong. But the galaxy couldn't wait for them to accept reality. Commander Ryan Brooks had been given the task of overseeing the integration of alien technologies with human innovations. The hidden shipyards were now revealed and expanded, producing vessels that combined the best ideas from every species in the galaxy. Sir Brooks reported during the weekly staff meeting, "The new ships are performing beyond our expectations. Corvin armor techniques, Valtharian energy management, and human innovation make an incredible combination." The new Federation ships were exploring regions of space that had been too dangerous for any single species to visit alone. They were finding wonders that no one had imagined. Ancient ruins of civilizations that had vanished millions of years ago. Planets with life forms that defied all known science. Resources that could power the galaxy for thousands of years. General Patricia Wells had established the Federation Marine Corps, combining human tactical knowledge with alien fighting styles. Her Marines were not conquerors but peacekeepers, protecting trade routes and settling disputes between worlds. "We've got a situation in the Outer Rim," Wells reported. "Pirates are attacking cargo ships carrying supplies to refugee colonies. Mixed species crews are requesting backup." Morrison approved the mission immediately. The Federation fleet would protect anyone who needed help, regardless of what species they belonged to. That was the promise humanity had made when they revealed their true power. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, now promoted to major, led intelligence operations across the galaxy. Her agents worked to prevent conflicts before they started and to find peaceful solutions to old disputes. "Major Rodriguez," Morrison asked, "what's the status of our deep space monitoring?" Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. "Long-range sensors have detected something interesting near the galactic core. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. It could be signs of another advanced civilization." Morrison studied the data with interest. Just when they thought they had figured out the galaxy, something new appeared to challenge them. It was exactly the kind of discovery that made exploration worthwhile. President Helen Ross appeared on the communication screen from Earth. "Jake, how are things going out there?" Morrison smiled at his old friend. "Better than we hoped, Helen. Some species are adapting faster than others, but we're making progress. The Corvins are becoming excellent peacekeepers. The Valtharians are sharing technology we never dreamed of. Even some Zephyrians are starting to work with us. And the colonies? It's all revealed and thriving. Our people are finally free to live wherever they want in the galaxy. No more hiding, no more pretending to be weak." Ross nodded with satisfaction. "The kids who grow up now will never know what it was like to hide our true capabilities. They'll reach for the stars without fear." Dr. Kevin Wright had established research stations throughout Federation space, where scientists from every species worked together on projects that would benefit everyone. The competition that had driven innovation in the old galaxy was being replaced by cooperation that achieved even greater results. Dr. Morrison asked during a research briefing, "What's your assessment of our technological progress?" Wright looked excited. "Beyond anything we imagined, Supreme Commander. When species share their knowledge instead of hiding it, advancement happens at incredible speed. We're solving problems in months that would have taken decades before." As Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new Federation capital station, he watched human and alien crews working together on ships bound for unexplored regions of space. Children from dozens of different species played together in the station's parks. Traders from across the galaxy exchanged goods and ideas in the marketplaces. The deception was over. The secret fleet that had shocked the Galactic Council was now the foundation of something greater than anyone had imagined. Humanity had used their hidden strength not to conquer the galaxy, but to save it from itself. Sir Captain Hamilton said as she joined him at the observation window. "We're receiving reports of first contact with a new species in the Andromeda sector. They're asking to join the Federation." Morrison smiled. The galaxy was bigger than they had thought, and there was still so much to discover. Humanity had revealed their secret at exactly the right moment. They had prevented a devastating war and built a new order based on cooperation instead of conflict. "Prepare a diplomatic mission," he ordered, "and make sure the crew includes representatives from all our member species. Let's show them what we've built together." As the stars shone outside the observation window, Morrison felt proud of what his species had accomplished. They had hidden their strength for 40 years, waiting for the right moment to reveal it. When that moment came, they had chosen to heal rather than harm, to build rather than destroy. The secret human fleet had shocked the Galactic Council and changed the galaxy forever. But the real shock had been showing the universe that the strongest species was not the one that could destroy its enemies, but the one that could turn enemies into friends. The age of human leadership had begun, and it would be remembered as the beginning of the galaxy's golden age.